Welcome to Greece, the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and the Olympic Games. A land where ancient marble temples still stand watch over impossibly blue seas, and where the myths of gods and heroes feel just as real today as they did 3,000 years ago. Greece gave the world the concept of the city-state, the foundations of Western medicine, theater, and mathematics. Its thinkers, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, asked questions so fundamental that we're still wrestling with their answers today. But Greece is far more than a museum of antiquity. This nation of 10 million people is a vibrant, sun-drenched Mediterranean paradise where 6,000 islands scatter across 3 seas, where family and food are sacred, and where the word philoxenia, love of strangers, defines every interaction. In the next 12 minutes, you'll discover why this small country has cast an enormous shadow across human history, and why it continues to captivate every traveler who sets foot on its shores. Let's start with the land, because you cannot understand Greece without understanding its geography. Greece is a country of mountains and sea. 80% of its territory is mountainous, with the Pindus Range running down the spine of the mainland like a rocky backbone. Mount Olympus, at 2,917 meters, is the highest peak, and according to ancient mythology, it was here that Zeus and the 12 Olympian gods held court, throwing thunderbolts and meddling in mortal affairs. The coastline is a staggering 13,676 kilometers long, the 11th longest in the world, carved into countless peninsulas, bays, and coves by the Aegean, Ionian, and Mediterranean seas. No point in Greece is more than 137 kilometers from the sea. Then there are the islands. Over 6,000 of them, though only 227 are inhabited. The Cyclades in the Aegean are the postcard Greece, whitewashed cube houses with blue domed churches, tumbling down volcanic cliffs toward turquoise waters. Santorini is the superstar, a crescent-shaped remnant of a massive volcanic eruption 3,600 years ago, which some believe inspired the legend of Atlantis. Crete, the largest island, sits like a fortress at the southern edge of the Aegean, birthplace of Europe's oldest civilization. The Ionian Islands to the west are greener, lusher, kissed by Italian breezes and covered in olive groves that produce some of the world's finest olive oil. Greece is also one of Europe's most seismically active countries, sitting at the collision point of the African and Eurasian tectonic plates. This geological restlessness created the landscape, and it still shapes it today. The history of Greece isn't just long, it's foundational. Around 3000 BCE, the Cycladic civilization was carving elegant marble figurines. By 2700 BCE, the Minoans on Crete were building multi-story palaces with running water and flush toilets at Knossos, technology that wouldn't reappear in Europe for another 3,500 years. But it was the Mycenaean civilization on the mainland, emerging around 1600 BCE, that gave us the legends. Their warlike kings, with gold death masks and fortress palaces, inspired Homer's epic tales of the Trojan War, stories so powerful that Heinrich Schliemann, a German businessman turned archaeologist, used the Iliad as a literal treasure map and actually found Troy in the 1870s. Then came the classical period, roughly 500 to 323 BCE, an explosion of human achievement unmatched by any civilization before or since. In Athens, democracy was born imperfectly, excluding women and slaves, but for the first time in history, citizens governed themselves rather than being ruled by a god-king. Socrates walked the agora, asking inconvenient questions that would get him executed but launch Western philosophy. His student Plato founded the academy. Plato's student Aristotle tutored Alexander the Great. That's 3 generations that literally built the intellectual foundation of the Western world. The Athenians built the Parthenon in just 15 years, a temple so geometrically perfect that it appears straight even though every single line is subtly curved to correct optical illusions. At the same time, Sparta was creating the most feared military machine of the ancient world, where boys were taken from their mothers at age 7 to begin a lifetime of brutal training. And then there was Alexander. Born in Macedonia in 356 BC, tutored by Aristotle, he conquered the largest empire the world had ever seen by the age of 30, from Greece to India, spreading Greek language, art, and thought across 3 continents. He died at 32, but the Hellenistic world he created would shape the Mediterranean for centuries. Rome conquered Greece in 146 BCE, but as the Roman poet Horace put it, captive Greece took captive her savage conqueror. Greek culture, philosophy, and language so thoroughly dominated the Roman elite that the eastern half of the empire spoke Greek for another 1,000 years. The Byzantine Empire, with Constantinople as its capital, was essentially a Greek empire. Even after the Ottoman conquest in 1453, Greek identity survived through the Orthodox Church and language. In 1821, after nearly 400 years of Ottoman rule, Greece became the first country in the Ottoman Empire to successfully win its independence, inspiring nationalist movements across Europe. Modern Greece was born. Greek culture is built on 3 pillars that have endured for millennia: family, faith, and food. The Greek Orthodox Church is woven into the fabric of daily life. 90% of Greeks identify as Orthodox, and you'll see tiny roadside shrines with flickering candles everywhere, blue glass evil eye charms called Maddie warding off jealousy, and festivals celebrating hundreds of saints throughout the year. Easter is bigger than Christmas. The whole country shuts down for a week of candlelit processions, midnight fireworks, and entire lambs roasting on spits. Greek hospitality, philoxenia, isn't just politeness, it's almost a sacred duty. If you're invited into a Greek home, prepare to eat. Refusing food is borderline offensive. Expect plates to keep appearing until you physically surrender. Greek music and dance are inseparable from celebration. The bouzouki, an 8-stringed instrument with a metallic, haunting tone, drives the rhythm of sirtaki dances made famous by the film Zorba the Greek. At weddings and festivals, you'll see people of all ages link arms and dance in circles, steps that have been passed down for centuries. And then there's the coffee culture. Greeks take their coffee seriously. A kafenia is the village living room, where old men play backgammon for hours over a single cup of thick, sludgy Greek coffee, discussing politics and football with the intensity of philosophers, because, of course, they invented that too. Modern Greece commands the 53rd largest economy in the world, and its story is one of dramatic resilience. The 2008 global financial crisis hit Greece harder than almost any other nation. The economy contracted by 25%, youth unemployment soared past 50%, and the country teetered on the edge of leaving the Eurozone. But Greeks are survivors. Today, tourism is the powerhouse, welcoming over 30 million visitors annually, more than 3 times the country's population. Shipping is another quiet giant. Despite having only 0.1% of the world's population, Greece controls over 20% of the world's merchant marine fleet, more than any other country. Greek shipping families, based in Athens and on islands like Chios, move a significant portion of global trade across the oceans. Agriculture remains vital. Greece produces the 3rd most olive oil in the world, and Greek feta cheese, now protected by EU designation, can only be produced in Greece from at least 70% sheep's milk. The country is also the world's largest producer of sea sponges and one of the top producers of saffron, pistachios, and cotton in Europe. Athens, with a metro population of over 3 million, is the economic and political heart. But a surprising renaissance is happening beyond the capital. Thessaloniki, the second city in the north, has emerged as a tech and startup hub, with cheap living costs and a vibrant university scene attracting young entrepreneurs from across Europe. After a decade of pain, Greece is growing again, and the energy is palpable. Greek food is not a cuisine, it's a way of life, and it is spectacular. Every meal begins with the holy trinity of Greek cooking: olive oil, lemon, and oregano. The Mediterranean diet, centered on these ingredients plus fresh vegetables, fish, and whole grains, was first studied in Crete in the 1950s, and it's been linked to longer life expectancy ever since. A traditional Greek meal is a social event that stretches for hours. Start with mazides, small plates like creamy tzatziki yogurt with cucumber and garlic, smoky melitsanos salata eggplant dip, dal-made stuffed grape leaves, and giant butter beans baked in tomato sauce called gigantes. Fresh horiatiki salad, what the world calls Greek salad, is a perfect expression of Greek simplicity: tomatoes, cucumber, red onion, green pepper, Kalamata olives, and a thick slab of feta, drenched in olive oil and oregano. No lettuce. Lettuce would ruin it. Then comes the main event. Souvlaki, grilled meat on skewers wrapped in warm pita with tomatoes, onions, and tzatziki, is the national street food. Moussaka, a layered casserole of eggplant, spiced minced meat, and creamy bechamel, is comfort food elevated to art. Along the coast, fresh grilled octopus, sardines, and sea bream are pulled straight from the Aegean and onto your plate. Greek wine is one of Europe's best-kept secrets. Grapes have been cultivated here for over 6,500 years. The oldest evidence of wine production in Europe comes from a Neolithic site in northern Greece. Indigenous varieties like Assyrtiko from Santorini, grown in volcanic soil and producing crisp, mineral whites, and Zinamavro from the north, a complex red that ages beautifully, are finally getting the international recognition they deserve. Finish with baklava, layers of phyllo, nuts, and honey syrup, and a cup of thick Greek coffee. Then lean back, because no one is leaving this table for another hour. Greece is an open-air museum, and its landmarks span the entire spectrum of human achievement. In Athens, the Acropolis dominates the skyline like it has for 2,500 years. The Parthenon, dedicated to Athena, the city's patron goddess, is the most perfect Doric temple ever built. Its columns are spaced with mathematical precision, and its sculptures, many now in the British Museum as the controversial Elgin marbles, depict mythological battles and civic processions in stunning detail. The Acropolis Museum below houses the originals that remain, displayed in a glass-walled building that lets you look at the sculptures while looking at the monument they came from. Delphi, perched on the slopes of Mount Parnassus, was considered the center of the world by the ancient Greeks. Here, the oracle of Delphi, a priestess called the Pythia, would inhale volcanic vapors and deliver cryptic prophecies that shaped the decisions of kings and empires. The Temple of Apollo, the theater, and the stadium where the Pythian Games were held are remarkably preserved, and the views over valleys of olive trees stretching to the sea are breathtaking. Meteora might be the most dramatic sight in Greece. In central Greece, massive sandstone pillars rise 400 meters straight up from the plain. On top, impossibly, sit medieval monasteries, built by monks seeking total isolation from the world. Originally accessible only by rope ladders and baskets pulled up by hand, you had to trust that the rope would be replaced only when the monks decided it was necessary. These monasteries are now UNESCO sites and active religious communities. On Crete, the Palace of Knossos reveals the sophistication of Minoan civilization. 4 stories high, with over 1,200 rooms, it was the legendary labyrinth of King Minos, where according to myth, the Minotaur half-man, half-bull was kept. The vibrant frescoes of bull-leaping athletes and elegant court ladies still astonish visitors. Mycenae, with its monumental lion gate, built from stone so massive that later Greeks believed only the mythical Cyclopes could have lifted them, and the beehive tomb known as the Treasury of Atrus, are the physical remains of the warrior civilization.